Have you ever thought that the same vegetables you've trusted your whole life could one day betray you? I never did. Not until I met a man named Harold at a community garden here in Ohio. He was 71, tall and gentle, with hands rough from years of soil and sunlight. As we sat under the shade of an old oak tree, he told me something that stopped me cold. Harold had always been proud of his healthy habits. Every morning, he'd juice spinach, snack on raw carrots, and eat a big bowl of salad for dinner. I thought I was doing everything right, he said. But one morning, his world shifted. Literally. He woke up dizzy, his words slurred, his right hand trembling like it didn't belong to him. The doctors called it a mild stroke. At first, Harold blamed fate. But what he discovered later shocked him. It wasn't greasy food or sugar that nearly cost him his health. It was the very vegetables he thought were saving him. Spinach, broccoli, even romaine lettuce, all innocent on the surface, but dangerous when combined with certain medications and the slower rhythm of an aging body. As he told me his story, I couldn't help but wonder, how many of us are unknowingly walking that same path? How many seniors still believe healthy means the same thing it did at 40? Have you ever questioned if your healthy habits are still helping you? Or quietly working against you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. But before I tell you about the simple change that helped Harold turn his health around, let's go back to where it all began. To the boy who would one day learn that even good things can carry hidden lessons. If you've faced something similar, let me know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe if you believe everyone deserves a second chance at good health. Harold was born in the summer of 1953 in a small farming town outside Dayton, Ohio. Back then, life moved slower, and neighbors knew each other by name. His father worked long hours at a local machine shop, while his mother tended a garden that seemed to stretch forever. Rows of tomatoes, carrots, and tall green stalks of corn swaying in the warm breeze. He used to say that some of his earliest memories were of that garden. "That's where I learned patience," he told me once, smiling softly. "Plants don't rush, and neither should we." He'd watch his mother kneel in the dirt, humming church hymns while pulling weeds, her hands stained brown, but her eyes full of peace. Food wasn't just something they ate. It was something they grew, something that connected them to the earth. At school, Harold was quiet but curious. He loved science, especially when it came to understanding how things worked: the body, the soil, the weather. While other kids dreamed of fast cars or city lights, Harold dreamed of building a life close to nature. He joined 4-H, raised chickens, and proudly brought home ribbons for his perfect ears of corn at the county fair. Money was tight, but there was always food on the table. Homegrown, simple, and fresh. His mother used to say, "If it comes from the ground, it's good for the heart." Harold carried that belief deep inside him. It shaped the way he looked at life. That natural always meant healthy. That nature couldn't harm you. But life has a way of teaching lessons slowly. Those innocent childhood beliefs, the ones planted in the soil beside his mother's tomatoes, would one day come back to test him in ways he never imagined. As Harold stepped into his teenage years, the quiet farm life that once felt like home began to feel smaller. The 1960s were changing everything: music, fashion, even the way people thought about health and happiness. He was 16 when he got his first summer job bagging groceries at a corner store, and it opened his eyes to a bigger world beyond his small Ohio town. He remembered the smell of fresh produce in the store: apples, lettuce, and broccoli, stacked high under fluorescent lights. "Funny thing," he once told me, "I thought those vegetables were my ticket to a long life." He watched people walk in and out with baskets full of greens, believing that eating right meant living forever. Harold believed it too. His mom's voice echoed in his mind. If it comes from the ground, it's good for you. But teenage years brought rebellion. He wanted to prove he could make his own way, away from the garden rows and family routines. After school, he'd hang out with friends, listen to rock music, and dream about becoming someone who made a difference. Maybe a teacher, maybe a doctor. He didn't know exactly what, but he wanted to help people. Still, he never lost his respect for nature. While others smoked or drank, Harold spent his free time jogging through the park or helping his mom plant spinach and lettuce in their backyard. That mix of youthful curiosity and quiet discipline shaped him into the kind of man who believed that taking care of your body was the same as taking care of your future. He couldn't have known then that this simple belief, that nature always heals, would follow him through life, and one day nearly cost him his health. After high school, Harold's dreams carried him far from his small hometown. He enrolled at Ohio State University, majoring in biology. It felt like the perfect mix of science and nature, two things that had always fascinated him. College life was a whole new world. Late-night study sessions, cafeteria food, and the freedom to make his own choices. He missed his mother's cooking, though. The smell of her tomato soup simmering on the stove, the crunch of fresh carrots from their garden. So he began cooking for himself, sticking to what he knew best: vegetables, grains, and a little chicken or fish. His roommates teased him for being the salad guy. But Harold didn't care. He felt strong, clear-headed, and alive. After graduation, he landed his first job at a local lab testing water quality for farms. It was steady work, honest work. That's where he met Linda, a cheerful secretary with kind eyes and a laugh that filled the room. She loved his gentle nature and the way he talked about life, as if it were a living thing to be cared for. They married 2 years later and built a small home near the edge of town, surrounded by open fields. Life wasn't easy. Money was tight. Bills piled up. But Harold believed good food and good habits would protect them. Every evening, he and Linda shared a meal of steamed vegetables, salad, and whole grains. "We're going to live forever," Linda would joke. Harold would just smile, believing she might be right. But the road ahead wasn't as smooth as it looked. Life had its own way of testing those peaceful routines, and soon Harold would learn that even the best intentions can take unexpected detours. The years that followed were a blend of love, hard work, and quiet sacrifice. Harold and Linda welcomed 2 children, Michael and Sarah, into their modest home. Money was still tight, but their house overflowed with laughter and the smell of home-cooked meals. Linda worked part-time at the library while Harold continued his job at the lab, slowly working his way up to supervisor. Even as responsibilities grew, Harold never let go of his healthy lifestyle. Every Saturday, the family visited the farmer's market. He'd pick out fresh broccoli, spinach, and carrots, teaching his kids to appreciate real food. "The earth gives us what we need," he'd say, passing Sarah a shiny red tomato. They'd eat big salads at dinner and sip on fresh juice while watching the sunset on the porch. Harold was proud. Proud that his children were growing up strong. Proud that he'd built a stable life from simple roots. Friends admired him for his discipline. While others smoked or drank, Harold's only indulgence was an extra helping of roasted vegetables. But with success came long hours. He spent late nights at work, running tests, reviewing reports, often skipping meals or eating quick bowls of salad to stay light. He didn't know it then, but that habit of eating light and late, especially those leafy greens, would one day become his body's silent burden. By the time he hit his 40s, Harold had everything he once dreamed of: a loving wife, 2 healthy kids, and a steady job. But beneath that calm surface, life was slowly preparing to test him again, in ways that no amount of spinach or broccoli could prevent. Harold's 40s brought a mixture of triumph and turbulence. His children were growing fast. Michael off to college, Sarah chasing her dream of becoming a nurse. Harold and Linda felt proud watching their kids step into the world, but at the same time, the house grew quieter, emptier. Work became Harold's new refuge. He poured himself into it. 12-hour shifts, endless reports, late-night coffee, and long hours in the lab. He told himself it was for his family, for their future. But in the silence of those long drives home, a strange fatigue began to creep into his bones. It started small. Dizziness when standing too quickly, numb fingers after typing for hours, headaches that felt like tiny thunderclaps. "Just stress," he'd say, brushing it off. Linda urged him to see a doctor, but Harold always insisted, "I eat healthy. I'm fine." But he wasn't. The stress of work, combined with a diet heavy in certain leafy vegetables, high in oxalates, began quietly affecting his body. His blood pressure fluctuated. Some days, his heart raced, as if it were sprinting without reason. Then came the day everything changed. One chilly November morning, while checking water samples, Harold felt a sharp pain behind his left eye. The room spun, his hand trembled, and he collapsed. He woke up in the hospital, Linda's worried face hovering above him. The doctor's words echoed through the sterile room. "You were lucky this time, Harold. A minor stroke. A warning." That night, as machines beeped softly around him, Harold stared at the ceiling, realizing that his healthy lifestyle might not be as harmless as he believed. It was the moment his life quietly shifted from confidence to questioning. Recovery wasn't easy. Harold was determined to get back on his feet, but his body no longer moved with the same ease. His left hand trembled when he tried to lift his coffee mug. His speech, once clear and calm, occasionally slurred when he was tired. Still, Harold refused to give in. He returned to work after just a few months, against his doctor's advice. "I can't sit around doing nothing," he'd tell Linda. But deep down, he feared slowing down, feared facing what the stroke had truly meant. The more he pushed himself, the more he paid the price. The long nights, the skipped meals, the endless healthy salads, all of it began to take a toll. His blood pressure crept higher, his sleep worsened, and his mood darkened. Even his passion for gardening began to fade. Yet, there were still moments of pride: his daughter's graduation, his son's first big job, Linda's smile when they danced slowly in the living room on weekends. Life still had its blessings, but Harold couldn't shake the sense that something inside him was breaking down, piece by piece. Friends told him he looked fine, but Linda saw the truth: the weariness in his eyes, the hesitation in his step. She begged him to take better care of himself. "You've always cared for everyone else," she said softly one night. "When will you care for you?" Harold didn't have an answer. All he knew was that the man who once felt invincible now felt fragile. And as he stepped into his 50s, he began to realize that the climb to success had come with an invisible cost: his own health. By the time Harold reached his mid-50s, life had slowed, not by choice, but by circumstance. His children had built their own lives far from home, and the laughter that once filled the house had turned into quiet echoes of memory. Linda remained his anchor, her warmth steady as ever, though she too had grown weary from years of watching him push himself too hard. Harold began noticing the little things that used to escape him: the creak of the porch swing, the smell of rain on the soil, the fading color in his once thick hair. The stroke had changed him. He wasn't as sharp or as strong as he once was, and that realization humbled him deeply. Still, he tried to keep life moving forward. He retired early from the lab, hoping the slower pace would help him heal. He started walking in the mornings, often stopping by the park bench where he used to take his kids years ago. He'd watch young families laugh and play, feeling both joy and a faint ache in his chest. But as he grew older, new health issues crept in. His blood pressure spiked unpredictably. Some days, his hands would tingle. Other days, he'd wake up dizzy, his vision slightly blurred. He followed every health trend he read about: smoothies, low-fat diets, detox drinks, anything that promised to restore the strength he once had. Linda worried he was trying too hard to fix himself. "Maybe what you need isn't more greens or less salt," she'd tell him. "Maybe it's rest, Harold." But resting wasn't in his nature. He was a man of action, and soon that same stubborn drive would lead him to the most painful chapter of his life. When Harold turned 62, retirement officially settled in. The early mornings, lab coats, and deadlines were replaced by long days at home, quiet, slow, and oddly unfamiliar. At first, he enjoyed it. He'd sip tea on the porch, read the newspaper, and tend to his small vegetable garden. But gradually, that peace turned into something else, a restless kind of stillness. Without his routine, Harold began to feel useless. He told himself he'd stay healthy, eat right, move daily, and keep his mind sharp. He doubled down on his clean eating habits, filling his plate with kale, spinach, beet greens, and Swiss chard. He believed the more he ate them, the better his heart and brain would function. Yet, strangely, the opposite began to happen. His energy dipped. He felt lightheaded after meals, his muscles cramped, and his heart sometimes raced for no reason. Nights were the worst. He'd wake up sweating, his pulse pounding in his temples. Linda noticed the change. "You've lost weight again," she'd say, concern etched on her face. "Maybe you're overdoing it." But Harold brushed it off. "Vegetables can't hurt me," he insisted. "They've kept me alive this long." One autumn afternoon, while raking leaves, Harold felt that same dizzy spell return, stronger this time. He leaned on the rake, trying to catch his breath, but his vision blurred. He stumbled inside, clutching the counter, whispering to himself, "Not again! Please, not again!" That evening, as he sat quietly beside Linda, fear crept into his eyes. He had done everything right, yet something inside him was clearly wrong, and it was, at that point, the very edge of exhaustion and confusion that his life took another unexpected turn. Winter arrived with a chill that seemed to settle deep inside Harold's bones. Every morning, he woke feeling weaker than the day before. His hands trembled when he tried to hold his cup of tea, and his heartbeat felt unpredictable, sometimes racing, sometimes fading into a faint flutter. Linda begged him to see a specialist, but Harold resisted. "It's just age catching up," he'd say, forcing a smile. Yet deep down, he knew something was terribly wrong. Then one evening, while getting ready for bed, it happened again. That crushing pressure behind his eyes, the spinning room, the numbness creeping up his arm. He fell hard against the dresser before Linda caught him and screamed for help. At the hospital, doctors ran a series of tests. Their words were quiet but heavy. "Another mild stroke. He's lucky to be alive." Harold stared at the ceiling in silence, unable to process how his healthy lifestyle could have betrayed him twice. He had done everything by the book. No junk food, no alcohol, plenty of vegetables. Yet here he was, weaker than ever. When his neurologist asked him about his diet, Harold proudly listed everything he ate daily: spinach, kale, beets, and other greens. The doctor frowned. "You might be overdoing it," he said gently. "These vegetables are good in moderation, but for someone with blood clotting tendencies or high oxalate levels, they can actually increase your stroke risk." Harold was stunned. The very foods he believed were healing him were quietly hurting him. That night, as Linda sat beside his hospital bed, Harold whispered, "I thought I was doing everything right." It was his lowest point, the moment he realized that even good intentions need balance. After being discharged, Harold knew he couldn't go back to the same habits. He spent days reading, watching medical talks, and learning more about his condition. That's when he stumbled across a recent study from Harvard Health and the American Stroke Association, linking excessive consumption of high oxalate vegetables like spinach, beet greens, and kale to potential calcium buildup and blood clot risks in older adults. The research confirmed what his doctor had warned him. Moderation mattered more than purity. Harold couldn't believe it. For decades, he had filled his plate with these very foods, thinking more was always better. Determined to understand his body better, he consulted a nutritionist who specialized in geriatric health. She explained that after 60, the body's metabolism changes. Kidneys process oxalates differently, and blood vessels become more sensitive. It's not about giving up vegetables, she told him. It's about choosing the right balance, variety over volume. Under her guidance, Harold adjusted his diet. He replaced heavy portions of spinach and kale with lighter greens like romaine, cabbage, and arugula. He started incorporating omega-3 rich fish, nuts, and fruits like berries, foods that support heart health without the risk. He also began a daily walking routine and practiced simple breathing exercises to manage stress. Slowly, the fog in his mind began to clear. His blood pressure stabilized and his strength returned bit by bit. It wasn't just his health that improved, it was his outlook. For the first time, Harold realized that healing isn't just about eating healthy. It's about understanding what your body truly needs. If you've ever learned something surprising about your own health, share it in the comments below. You never know. Your story might help someone else find their balance too. Harold's healing didn't happen overnight. It was a slow, patient climb back toward balance. The first few weeks after his diet change were tough. His body had grown used to those heavy green meals, and he often felt uncertain about every bite he took. Linda became his quiet strength, preparing new recipes with colorful vegetables, carrots, zucchini, and green beans instead of spinach and beet greens. He followed his nutritionist's plan closely. Mornings began with warm water and lemon instead of coffee, followed by a short walk around the neighborhood. Breakfast was simple: oatmeal with blueberries or scrambled eggs with a few fresh herbs. Lunches were light and varied: baked salmon, brown rice, and a mix of greens that didn't spike his oxalate levels. At first, he missed his old habits, but then something remarkable happened. His body started to feel lighter. The dizzy spells faded. His sleep deepened. The numbness that haunted his fingers began to disappear. Even his energy returned, steady and reliable, like an old friend he thought he'd lost. He also began journaling, writing down how each food made him feel. It became more than a diet log. It was a record of gratitude and rediscovery. One afternoon, while walking in the park, Harold saw the reflection of sunlight dancing on the pond and realized he hadn't felt that peaceful in years. He wasn't chasing health anymore. He was living it. He started sharing his story at the local senior center, hoping others could learn from his journey. Sometimes, he'd say, we listen to the world's advice so much that we forget to listen to our own body. If you've ever tried changing your routine or diet to heal yourself, share your story in the comments below. You might inspire someone the way Harold inspired others. 2 years later, Harold looked like a different man. Not because of how he appeared, but because of how he glowed. His movements were steady, his words clear, and his laughter had returned. The fear that once shadowed his days had faded into calm acceptance. He still gardened, but now with mindfulness. He grew a variety of vegetables, tomatoes, cabbage, carrots, and gave most of them away to neighbors and friends. He often said, "Food is meant to nourish, not to frighten us." His doctor was amazed by his recovery. Blood pressure, normal. Cholesterol, balanced. Stroke risk, significantly lower. Harold's consistency had paid off, but it wasn't just about what he ate. It was about how he lived. He learned to rest, to take slow walks with Linda at sunset, to listen when his body whispered instead of waiting until it screamed. Life had given him a second chance, and he wasn't wasting it. Sometimes he'd sit on the porch, cup of tea in hand, and reflect on the journey. "I used to think health was about control," he told Linda one evening, "but it's really about respect. Respecting what your body tells you." He admitted he wished he had listened sooner, but he was grateful he finally did. And as the soft wind rustled through his garden, Harold smiled, knowing that his story might help others avoid the same mistakes. If this story inspired you, like this video. And if you believe in second chances, don't forget to subscribe. You know, every person I meet teaches me something new about life. Harold's story reminded me that sometimes, even the things we believe are helping us can quietly turn against us if we don't listen to our bodies. It's not about fear. It's about awareness, balance, and learning to treat ourselves with care. He showed me that it's never too late to change, to heal, or to begin again. No matter your age, no matter how far off track you think you've gone. So, if you're listening to this right now and you've been struggling with your health, take this as a gentle reminder. Your body is always speaking. Slow down and listen. Thanks for spending this time with me, my friends. Until next time, stay healthy, stay hopeful, and remember, every new day is another chance to start fresh.